we on the first slide?
No. Doesn't always let me go back. Okay, now we're good. Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining. We're just going to give everybody a couple more minutes to make sure we've got everybody in who wants to be in, and then we'll get started.
I know you're supposed to be watching TV.
All right, everybody, we're going to go ahead and get started, and I'll be adding people to the meeting as we go. Just want to thank everybody for the fourth time for giving up some of your evening to join us. Today, we're going to focus on supporting your child's social and emotional growth during this virtual learning progress and process. So we're going to go through quite a few things for you this evening that should be really beneficial for your students and for you to help support those things at home. On the call this evening, we have myself. I'm the virtual school coordinator for Paramount Schools of Excellence, our Chief Academic Officer, Kyle Beauchamp, and then joining us this evening is Rhonda Grady. She is our social emotional coordinator for Paramount Brookside and Paramount Schools, as well as Kyla Ryan, and she is our head school counselor at our Paramount Brookside campus. So just a quick overview of some of the things we've already covered so far in our series of workshops. Workshop 1, we covered just general family orientation and tech supports, went through some of the platforms that we're going to be using for virtual learning this year, talked through how to log into those things, and tried to give parents as much support as possible for getting started with the process. Workshop 2, we covered reading and ELA, like literacy supports for our students, and some of the resources we can utilize for that. And then last week, our math support workshop covered all of the platforms that we use, some example videos from our teachers for how to support those math skills at home with your students, lots of resources and websites that you can utilize at home to help support your students over and above what they're already using in class. So all of those workshops are linked here on the page, and this, again, just like the last 3, will be shared out with you as both a presentation and a video of the presentation this evening as well. Not what we wanted. There we go. Okay. So for this first part, and you can kind of walk through this however you choose, we would like you to think about as a discussion what things you're most concerned about with your child's social and emotional growth while they are participating in virtual learning. So you can share this verbally out loud if you'd like to do that, and we'll kind of take turns sharing our thoughts on this one, or you can drop your answer or your thoughts in the chat room just to kind of keep it a little more organized. It's totally up to you, but we'll take the next couple of minutes to share out in that regard.
I think, Megan, can everyone hear me okay, first off?
Yeah.
Yep.
All right. So again, my name is Kyle Beauchamp. I'm the Chief Academic Officer for Paramount Schools, but I also have two students of my own. And like you all, we're had to kind of dive headfirst into virtual learning back in the spring when COVID shut down our schools across the state. And I can tell you that it doesn't matter if you're in education or any other field, it's really, really hard work supporting your child's learning at home. No matter what your background or profession is. One of the biggest apprehensions I had was that there's certainly a different emotion that comes with teaching your own child. So all the things we work on with our kids at Paramount, I feel like I kind of threw them out the window because of the emotions that come with teaching your own child. And I didn't do a very good job of following my own advice in terms of how we treat kids and how we support kids' social and emotional growth. So that was a stressor for me, I know, just to follow my own advice sometimes and use some of those tools in the Paramount tool belt to support my own child socially and emotionally. And it led to some conflict between my son and I. So I don't know if anyone has any similar stories like that.
Well, my son, I found the most challenging was because he has ADHD. He also gets special accommodations in his regular learning environment. And so introducing the computer as his main focus in learning, that was a challenge. And also being able to find out how I was going to accommodate him virtually, that was a challenge as well. And so, and then on top of that, having to teach in that model and limiting anyway his screen time altogether, it wasn't helpful at all. So I found it very, very challenging, at the moment. Right now he's in classroom, but I opted to take this class because I struggled so much when he was in that model. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing that.
Just looking at the chat, James shared with us that he's feeling some of the same frustration and conflict between him and his student that you were saying that you're seeing, Kyle. And I can kind of speak to conversations that I've had through the virtual call center with parents, just keeping students interested and engaged when they don't have that constant interaction with their teacher. And a lot of that becomes a lot more difficult for our families when they are also trying to complete their own work at home while supporting their student at the same time. So I think that adds some stress to the social and emotional growth of our students when they're trying to be responsible for so much of it on their own, while their parents have responsibilities of theirs that they're having to attend to, and just everybody kind of getting what they need out of that environment is a lot of the feedback we've gotten so far.
And another thing that I think about with some of the trials and tribulations that we went with my family is just patience and showing patience to showing patience. I see that I show patience more when I'm at work to the kids than I am to the little one. And so I had to take time out to be patient, to be able to repeat, where I can see myself repeating things a couple of times with some of the students at Brookside, where over here, I shorten the repeats I might do. So definitely being able to balance, like Kyle said, with what I learned at Paramount to here.
Yeah, and I was going to say, I'm piggybacking off of both Megan and Grady. You have parents that are trying to work from home. You have some parents that are single parents at home, and they have, a child or multiple children at home trying to vie for attention or need help or whatnot. And just, it takes planning, and it's really hard, but just trying to come up with, if you have older kids at home, letting those older kids kind of create their own schedule with your supervision, and then the younger ones just kind of making sure that they are kind of set up with doing the tasks and activities that they can complete while you're getting your work done, and then being able to attend to them with the things that they need help once you've gotten your stuff done. Because that's the biggest thing. Parents need to make sure that their needs are being taken care of when they're trying to create these schedules in the home. So.
Yeah. One more really quickly. Thanks, Brittany, for sharing. Brittany's a nursing student, and some days she logs into her classes at the same time as her kids, and finds it difficult to help her boys focus and then also focus on her own classes that she's having to complete. So a lot of the same kind of trends that we're seeing with juggling both the responsibilities that the parents have for their own individual things and then helping the students with support in that environment as well is definitely, like we've all kind of said already, the biggest struggle that we're finding is just trying to find that schedule and find that system to make it work for everyone. Thanks everybody for sharing. We'll go ahead and move on. Just to go through our agenda for this evening really quickly. We're going to start with what social and emotional learning even is. We hear it a lot, and especially it's becoming a lot more prevalent in discussions in the educational world, but even among parents and families as well. So we're just going to walk you through kind of what that means and what it looks like through the Paramount lens. We're going to talk about 5 characteristics of social and emotional learning. And our experts, our guidance counselors are going to talk you through some tips to help support that at home. Some strategies that we utilize on campus that we feel like are translatable to the home environment will come third tonight. And then just some additional parent social and emotional strategies that you can utilize with your students at home. And then we'll give you a list of some resources that are available to you so that you don't feel like you're completing this whole process on an island, and that you have support from us to make sure that your students are not only growing academically, but they're being supported in the social and emotional realm as well. So I'm going to kick it over to, or back to, I should say, Kyle Beauchamp for the next few slides.
All right. Welcome everybody again. And I want to lead out by saying I am not, and I repeat, not the expert in this area. Kyla Ryan, guidance counselor, Rhonda Grady, our social emotional coordinator, are 2 of the best I've ever worked with in terms of supporting student social and emotional growth. So tonight you're going to get great value from hearing from them. This is, however, a subject that I am highly passionate about. I truly believe that academic learning does not happen unless the student's social and emotional needs have been met first. And that's a big part of the Paramount system. And it's a big reason why we have folks like Kyla and Rhonda around to make sure that we're supporting and being an extension of you all as parents. The second thing I'll say is I don't want anyone to feel as though this is a replacement for your own parenting style. I think it's important to think of these as additional tools for your own parenting tool belt. Some of these will work for you, some may not. But you'll get a lot of strategies to choose from tonight. And in no way should this be a replacement for the parenting style that you have. It's just an opportunity to learn a little bit more about some ways you can support at home. So on the social emotional side, there's 5 characteristics, and we're going to dive into each of these tonight. And then our counselors are going to talk us through some actionable strategies to help out with these things. The first one is self-awareness of your child. The second one is responsible decision-making. The third one is relationship skills. The fourth is social awareness. And the fifth is self-management. This, your students' ability to be autonomous and self-sufficient, set up their own schedules, things like that. There's a 5-minute video, and it is a little bit long, but I feel it sets a really good base for the start of our conversation tonight. So please bear with us, and we're just going to lead out with this 5-minute video on social emotional learning.
Social and emotional skills are the essential skills for success in school, work, and life.
Social emotional learning centers their mind and body. It reduces their emotional tension so they can be open to new content and material. We find that academic outcomes increase exponentially when students are nurtured, loved, and cared for, that we get much more out of them when we first address social emotional needs. So for us, it's actually an academic intervention and not just an emotional one.
If we expect students to be college and career ready, it's important for us to focus on these skills and competencies: self-awareness, self-management, social awareness, relationship skills, and responsible decision-making. Self-awareness is the ability to identify your emotions, to be able to tie thoughts and feelings to behaviors.
We find that self-awareness is one of the hardest things for young people, being aware of their own body space and the impact of their words and emotions on other people. So a lot of the work we do is reflective, through conflict mediation, through circles, through journaling, having them see their own impact on the world and then how to shift that or make a different choice next time.
Self-management is the ability to self-motivate, to have self-control, to regulate one's emotions.
In the classroom, that may be a breathing exercise, or that might be counting to 5 or taking a break.
So with students who don't really know how to deal with their anger or don't really know how to resolve conflict, we're giving them a tool that helps them deal with it in a less stressful way.
Social awareness is about embracing diversity, showing empathy for others. Activities might include service learning projects, addressing social justice issues. Role-playing is a great opportunity for students to address how a person might have felt in a conflict on the playground.
We're going to see if other people have had some of the very same experiences around bullying that we've had.
You're in my boat if you have a bully now.
Wow, I see a lot of people.
Relationship skills are important in project-based learning. It's the ability to work cooperatively with someone, to resolve conflict.
It's the one skill you need your whole life. You may not need calculus tomorrow, but you have to know how to work in relationship, whether it's for a coworker or a life partner. You have to know how to handle conflict and how to handle challenges.
Sometimes at recess, Marnie would come over and just start talking about us and saying mean things.
Is it your job to make Danae's job at school hard?
No, I know it's a form of bullying, and sometimes I'll say sorry to her.
So you choose to be someone's ally and make a better choice.
Responsible decision-making is considering the well-being for self and others. It's evaluating the consequences for various behaviors or actions. We do this through shared agreements, one-to-one problem solving, or having students debate an issue.
If you were like, hey, Kashida, what can how much does an A cost in this class? And you took out your wallet and I was like, I think $50 would work. Which one of us would be corrupt in that case?
You're the one that's asking for the money?
We're truly teaching these students to be productive citizens. We're teaching them life skills. We're teaching them how to problem solve effectively. We're teaching them how to be resilient.
I think of all the billions of dollars we've spent on Title I and all these intervention programs, and when all is said and done, what do we have to show for it? I think we're trying to teach technical things instead of devoting some of the resources to teach who you are as a person. Once you know who you are, then learning becomes exciting because you've already established a discipline.
It's important for teachers and principals to understand that it can't be a binder off the shelf. It can't be something that happens from 2:15 to 4:30 on Tuesdays and Thursdays. It has to be part of the school culture.
Giving teachers flexibility, giving them a range of skills, giving them different ways that it can look, and allowing them to take their own personality and match that to what they want in their classroom has been the best way to get authentic, true practice.
If we continue to do what we've always done, we're always going to get what we always got. Is that good enough? I don't think it's good enough for the 21st century. We need to be the outliers to try things that have never been tried and see if they work. What are we waiting for?
All right. So thanks for staying with us. And I can promise you, I know that focused on social emotional learning within a school community, but most of what we're going to talk about tonight is very relatable to home learning as well. In fact, there's strategies that will help better the relationship you have with your child in that school context, in the virtual school context at home. So once the slideshow's back on, we'll head to the next slide and start diving into these strategies a little bit further.
Sorry, I'm working on it. There we go. Can everybody see that? Okay.
Got it. Okay. Okay, so the first of the characteristics that we're going to dive into is student self-awareness. It's being able to identify their own emotions. They're having an accurate self-perception of who they are, what their strengths, what their weaknesses are, and being able to recognize those. Being able to have a sense of self-confidence, but also a sense of self-efficacy. That means they understand and they know what they're capable of doing, especially when it comes to schoolwork and being a successful student. So at this point, we understand kind of what self-awareness is. I'm going to pass it on to guidance counselor Kyla Ryan, who's going to talk a little bit more about this.
Yeah, so, okay, so self-awareness, what I kind of did, and I incorporated these websites for you guys to be able to access on your own, parents. A lot of them are free, like downloadable, just quick things that you can look at that kind of just have activities. And what I liked about them is that they can be done at home. You can incorporate them into your child's academic day just to kind of break up the day, if you so choose. Like I said, they're listed all on the PowerPoint under, I think it's under counselor tips. So when you get to that PowerPoint, you'll see the websites where you can click on them and get to them. But what I liked about them is that they include kind of the social emotional learning objectives. So you kind of know which kind of character set you're targeting. They also have let's chat conversation questions, respectful ways, Q&A, and then they also have some home connect activity ideas that you can do at home. So it just kind of gives you guys some ways of just kind of having an open conversation with your kids. So the first one, the self-awareness, there's an activity that's called choosing to be positive. And your kiddos are learning that although they can't change what's happening to them, responding with positivity is always a choice. They learn how much a positive outlook can affect our lives, and to take charge of personal happiness with positive self-talk. So this particular activity kind of walks them through and walks you through having that discussion, and just kind of gives little examples and tidbits, if that makes sense.
Okay, we can go on to number 2. So our second strategy is on self-management. It's students' ability to really self-regulate themselves. It's impulse control. For adults, that may mean trying to not go for the sweets after 9 p.m. I know that's a tough one for me. For students, it may be something different. It's managing their stress. And we understand the landscape of the world today. We're in very trying times right now in terms of not only a national and world pandemic, but understanding the short and long-term effects of social and racial injustice in our country today. Students having self-discipline, self-motivation, being able to set realistic goals for themselves, and then having organizational skills. That was something as a kid, up until high school, maybe even college, I didn't have, and I wish someone would have really worked with me on effective organization skills. It's such an important part of being successful long-term. So Ms. Grady is going to talk a little bit more about this characteristic.
With self-management, just like Kyle said, our students are going through so much. They're going through more than we've ever went through in our entire lives. You know, you have the racial injustice and you have the pandemic. And it seems like our students are getting hit so many different ways, and they're expected to act grown up. And so I know that's some of the stresses that we don't mean to put on our own children, but we sometimes do. So on the website that Kyla had talked about, there's one that calls "Giving Up is Easy, Effort Wins." And that's one thing. It is so easy for our students to give up with everything going on, and especially with them not being in the classroom, not understanding, not having, you know, a teacher right there. And then us, I'm not a teacher, I'm a school counselor. So being able to, you know, for us, ourselves not to give up, for our students not to give up also. And so with this right here, students learn about the power of perseverance. And that's the biggest word, is making sure that they keep moving, they keep striving to do their best. The activity helps students realize what effort means and the importance of determination and helping them reach their goals. And we're just talking about like just simple, small goals that you guys can set. Hey, you know, hey, if you can do this for, you know, if you can work on this assignment for, you know, 10, 15 minutes, you know, we can pull on a YouTube video. I know the little one here at this house, she loves the Usher ABC song. So she gets excited if she does this much work, she's able to do the Usher song. So just making sure that they know that they're not to give up. You can go ahead, Kyle.
Yeah, and I want to let you know too, these resources that Kyla and Rhonda are talking about are going to be on a later slide. And we're also going to share this slide with everyone via email, and also it'll be on Paramount's Facebook and Twitter accounts as well. So you'll be able to access all of these awesome resources, and we'll take a look at them on a later slide. So we're on to number 3, social awareness. It's having a perspective on life and a worldview outside of just themselves and their own home. Having empathy for others and understanding what empathy is in terms of caring for others and having appreciation for all living things, an appreciation for diversity and things that are different than them and different maybe outside of their own culture, outside of their own city or state, outside of their own value system even, and then having a respect for others. So I understand that this, in a virtual environment, teaching some of these things can, you know, finding those teachable moments can be a little more difficult because they just don't have the volume of interaction that they would in a normal class. And we've tried to add additional forums and platforms for our students to be able to communicate with each other through our live lessons in virtual, our one-on-ones with teachers, additional Friday time to get on as a class and have some free time to communicate with each other. But we understand it's still not the same as being in school. So this one does present challenges in terms of finding those teachable moments. But I'll pass it on to Kyla, Ryan to talk a little bit more about this.
Yeah, so just empathy versus apathy. Sometimes that question of why care comes up, and that kind of ties into that whole self-management and perseverance as well. It's like, I'm not at school, like, you know, just why care? But cultivating that source of empathy in your child really results in compassion and care for others, and that kind of golden rule of treat others as you'd like to be treated. So I know on casel.org, and that website's also shared later on too, has a lot of really kind of just small ideas that you can do at home as well. Just whether it's something to do together, like painting rocks and leaving them on your neighbor's doorstep, or helping your child kind of connect with a peer to do a project online together. Just those kinds of things to kind of keep them socially connected and interacting and making sure that, you know, they're still caring about their family and those around them.
You. 2 more to go through real quick, and then we'll get into some more tips and strategies. So the 4th one is relationship skills. Again, I'll kind of lead out with this one is a little more challenging to find those moments in a virtual environment, but this one is about effective communication. And certainly there's opportunities everywhere to find ways to teach students what effective communication looks like, what good social engagement with other people looks like, what it means to build authentic relationships with people, and what it means to work cooperatively with others in groups and teams. Even in a virtual learning environment, many sports are still in other clubs are still open in Marion and some of the greater counties outside of Indianapolis, are still allowing some form of group activities to go on. I highly encourage your child to get involved with those if it's possible. Certainly resolving conflict is a part of it. That's something we work on an awful lot in the school environment, is that conflict resolution. 9 times out of 10 when we receive calls from parents about peer conflict issues or what could be perceived as bullying, it's generally about resolving a peer conflict, resolving conflict between two or more children that can be avoided or can be fixed if we work through those conflict resolution skills. And then understanding, and this is a hard one even for adults, making sure your students know it's okay to ask for help. I think it's a skill we all need reminders on sometimes, even as adults, is it's okay to ask for help sometimes. We encourage our students to ask for help, and we preach a culture of error in our school. It's okay to make mistakes. It's okay to ask for help. That's what we're here for. And I think it's important we continue to advocate for that in the home learning environment as well. So Ms. Grady, go ahead and talk a little bit more about this one.
So the one thing we found off that the website was pride yourself on being courteous. On this right here, students learned that everyone deserves respect, the differences between entitlement and gratitude, and then going back to what Kylie said, the concept of the golden rule and treating others how you want to be treated. And when I think about that, I think about there's so many life lessons that we've learned where, if you're standing in line at the teachable moment, I forgot, my brother called them teachable moments, where you're standing in line waiting at Macy's, and then the person in front of you is so rude when she's told that she can't take the shirt back because there's no receipt. And the person yells at them. And that would be like a teachable moment that they talk about in Pride Yourself on Being Courteous, is putting yourself in that other person's shoes. While you guys are watching TV at night, that's another way to show them on how, how would you feel if you was in that position? How would you have interacted with that person differently? And then going back to what Kyle said, is stating that it's okay to ask for help when you need to help. But then also teaching our students that we want you to be polite. We want you to be nice. We don't want you to have that entitled because people just owe you stuff. But it's okay to also say no. It's also polite to say, no, that's not for me. No, I would not like that. But say it politely.
And on to the 5th skill. To be responsible decision-making. This is something every day that I feel, whether it's on campus or in a virtual environment, there's teachable moments here every day in terms of what is the ethical responsibility of a human being, what's right and what's wrong. And that can be subjective sometimes, but there's definitely teachable moments there. There's situational analysis. There's always opportunities to teach, whether it's watching a TV show or, like Miss Grady just talked about, something that happens while you're at Macy's. There's problem identification, just identifying that a problem exists sometimes and talking through those things are so important. Problem solving skills, and then evaluating solutions, I think, are so important for especially at a foundational age of elementary and middle school, like our students are. Learning early on what problem solving skills are and how we need to be solutions based and evaluate all solutions in order to come up with the best result possible. So Ms. Ryan, I'll kick it to you to talk a little bit more about this one.
Okay. Yeah, so just kind of going back to responsible decision making, just really being able to instill, and it can be a really hard one. I struggle with it with my own kids, and I feel like it's such an incredible valuable skill set to have, is owning your own choices, behaviors, actions. It can be difficult to teach. Sometimes kiddos are lucky, they just kind of intrinsically have that with them, and other times you just, you really got to break things down, and a lot of times it comes from just learning from your mistakes. But just helping kids know that, you know, making good choices, it's always up to them, and having that personal power, and knowing that you have that power within yourself, is really truly the source of making the right decision and knowing the right thing to do, and being able to say, you know what, I owned it, I did it, shouldn't have, or this is what I could have done differently, or this is how the problem could have been solved differently. You know, that makes you a better friend. It makes you a better student in class. It makes you a better citizen or steward. So there's some activities that we have that can kind of guide you along with that as well.
Okay.
So as we kind of get into the last few slides here, we just want to give you some tools and things that you can utilize to apply a lot of these strategies to that home learning environment for virtual learning. So just some things that you can do to make that home learning setup a little less stressful for everyone. Step one, get on a schedule. It's something that we at Paramount rely really heavily on in our classrooms, and it's something that our virtual teachers are relying very heavily on, is just making sure that there's a schedule and it's predictable, and we're not giving our kids too many surprises, or kind of making it really loose where they can kind of make the choice whenever they want, because then it just kind of creates a stressful environment for everyone when no one knows what to expect. Creating a home learning routine. This is also kind of along the same lines as the schedule, but just creating a routine where you do the same things in the same way each day, and creating a system that you follow to make sure that the assignments are getting completed. You know, if you have a student who is working independently while you're doing at-home work, when you have a break, you can always set up a routine where your student goes through their work with you while you're on your lunch break, or however that works for your family. Just creating a routine that works really well for everyone, so that everybody is feeling successful in that environment. Providing opportunities for success. So one of the things, and we'll get into this a little bit later, one of the things that's really integral in the Paramount system is just celebrating small successes, and making sure students feel successful in a lot of different ways. So we want to really make sure that we're setting up the environment and setting up the learning process in a way that students can find success from a lot of different capacities. So if they are working on math and it's a stress for them, giving them opportunities to be successful in that and celebrating those successes, be they small or large, is really going to help reduce stress for everyone in that environment. Pivoting things to a new point of view is going to be really beneficial at home. So when your students are saying this is too hard, instead of saying, yeah, it is really hard, we can always kind of pivot their point of view to give them another way of looking at that problem, or giving them another way of looking at that stressor that they're experiencing. This is really hard might be able to be turned into something that's a little bit more of a growth mindset, where students can say things, or you can kind of guide your students in thinking more along the lines of, this is helping me grow. This is hard, but I'm going to get past it. And when I do, I'm going to be really proud of myself. And then the last one is just hitting the pause button. It's stressful for everyone. And while it seems like it would be less stressful to be able to participate in school at home in your pajamas, in some cases, if you choose to, the stress is still there for students. And sometimes, as we're finding with our virtual environment, sometimes even more, because they're not getting that FaceTime with their teacher. They're not having that constant support that they would normally get in a classroom. And so kids are going to need to take breaks. So we've added a resource down here at the bottom for brain breaks that is going to be really useful if your student just needs to take a minute. They're working through a math assignment, they're working through a reading assignment, it's getting frustrating, and they're not going to do their best work in that moment. It's a really great time to just hit the pause button, take a break, do something fun, do a dance video, play a game for a few minutes, just to kind of get their mind refreshed, and then they can then get back to those assignments with a better attitude, and also a fresher mindset to be able to complete those successfully. So some additional strategies we have here related to social and emotional growth. As we talked about, setting a consistent schedule. To the right here, you can see a schedule that is kind of our recommended schedule for the day. This isn't going to work for everyone, and what's most important about this schedule is just the time frame that is associated with each section. Just as kind of just a recommendation of about how long the assignment should take and about how much dedication it's going to take for each of those areas. But also making sure that you're building in time for things like specials for us. We've provided for students some additional activities that are not academic that they can do to kind of give them something additional to work on. We've got a break time built in where they've got a whole hour where they could have lunch, go play outside before they get back to things around 1 o'clock. And obviously, like we said, everybody's got their own schedule and routine that's going to work for you, especially if you're at home or working from home, that's going to be best. But this is just a recommendation and kind of an outline for how your students can be successful in kind of blocking out their day into a specific schedule. One of the things that's also really important, and we discussed this in our very first parent workshop, is just establishing a consistent learning space for your child, and let them have a say in that space where they're creating what their learning environment looks like, similar to your students would have at school, where they have their desk and their things that they organize in their own way. Is really going to be beneficial to kind of, one, help mirror what a classroom environment would feel like, but also give those students ownership over their learning process. Again, when we've discussed this a couple of times already, but authentically praising effort for students instead of just getting the answer right. And this is something that our teachers focus on really heavily in class, and we'll kind of get to that a little bit more in a moment. But we really spend a lot of time focusing on praising the effort and the perseverance that our students are showing us, and not just always getting the right answer. If they can do both, that's always obviously a good thing for us. But sometimes they learn more in the process of trying to get to the wrong answer than just getting the right answer the first time. They learn problem solving skills. They learn the ability to fix problems with their work because they notice the problems, and then they have ownership over fixing them. Again, continuing to include breaks that allow them to do things they want to do. So all of our students are different. They love different things. If your child is into crafting, take a craft break. If your child is into cooking, sports, reading, video games, whatever that is, build in breaks throughout the day where they can get to do the things they want to do. As Ms. Grady mentioned before, if you can get this amount of work done, you can take a break and do something that you love. And that will definitely help make that time go more smoothly throughout the day. So something we can look at is earning a reward based on behavior or the amount of work that they complete. Again, that reward could be something that they love to do. They should have clear expectations on how they earn that reward. So if you're going to give them that time, they need to be told in advance exactly what it looks like to earn that reward. How did they do it right? And how do they get that reward at the end? And then another thing is just trying not to reward with food. Especially because that's not always an option that we have on campus. So when your child returns to school, if their reward is a bag of chips, or their reward is fruit snacks or something like that, that's not always an option that they're going to have at school. So then they may have a hard time feeling rewarded with the non-food items that they're getting at school. And then one of the biggest things, and this is something that as a parent myself, I know is very easy to do, but try not to get into a power struggle with your child over their schoolwork. If they're refusing to complete work, take a break from each other, calm down, and then give them time to take a break from their work and then get back into it. If they're at a point where they're already frustrated and they're already overwhelmed with their work, forcing them to do it is probably just going to create more animosity and more frustration and a really negative relationship with school for your students than if we just let them have a minute, take a break, have some quiet time, and then come back to the work when they're in a better brain space. So we've got a list here. These are some of the resources that Ms. Grady and Ms. Ryan were talking through with you. We have a virtual school call center, and it's open weekdays 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. We have access to all of the resources that your students would have access to on campus, and we can connect you with the right people and the right things that you might need. This includes, not necessarily limited to, but includes health resources, special education supports, translation supports, technology support, access to Ms. Ryan and Ms. Grady through the school counselor support, and then access to our meal program for breakfast and lunch every week. That number is listed here, and you can call that number at any time. And if we aren't able to answer right away, we have a voicemail. Please feel free to leave one so we know how to get back to you, and we can maybe do some work on the back end of things to get you ready, to get the resources ready for you before we give you a call back. Ms. Grady, and Ms. Ryan, their contact information is listed below here. They're our social emotional support team, and they can be reached at the Paramount Brookside number or by email, and that phone number is listed there as well as their emails. And then for Cottage Home, our social emotional support team is Mr. Tolliver and Ms. Kennedy. Their emails are listed here as well as the phone number to reach them as well. And then Paramount Inglewood, Ms. Suggs is going to be your connection there for those students, and that phone number is listed there as well as her email. So lastly, just final contact info for me. There's the virtual school coordinator. That call center number is going to be the best way to get in touch with me. You can always send me an email if that's faster or easier for you. And then our technical support through Trajectory is going to be really useful and really helpful in helping us work through some of our login issues and some of our connectivity issues as we work through this virtual process. So again, we thank everybody for being here tonight. It was great to have you all on with us, and we appreciate those of you who have been repeat attendees or been able to be with us for all 4 of our workshops. This is the last of those 4 workshops, but we are working through and thinking through ways that we can continue to support you in platforms such as this or others that can help you get the information you need regarding the virtual learning program. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Have a great night, everybody.
Bye.